Sometimes things just work out. It's a wonderful, lovely, rainy sort of evening, and just in time for such an evening, I got some new horror movies. Indeed, it's true. I've just received the April of 2024 HorrorPack. That's, of course, the horror movie subscription service that every month sends us one of these wonderful boxes containing some Blu-rays of what usually amount to be wonderful horror movies. As is my way on this channel, I'm going to open it up. I have not yet done so, so I have no idea what's inside. You will find out at the very same moment as I do. While I open it up, let's just tend to some bookkeeping matters. If you're interested in any of the movies that come out of this wonderful little package, I will have links down in the What's It where you can find at least as many of them as I'm able to find purchase links for. That's also where you can find information about my other various projects. You can buy copies of my books. You can check out the Rocky Mountain Paranormal Research Society, the Do You Like Scary Movies podcast, all the other things that I spend my time doing. All of those things help support my work. Other ways you can support my work, of course, you can do all those YouTube-y things. Like, comment, share, subscribe, ring the notification bell. All of that sort of stuff really helps me out and is, of course, very much appreciated. But without further ado, what we're actually here for would be these movies. So let's get to those. Alrighty, the first of our new horror movies is this one entitled My Friend Dahmer. Presumably a warm and fuzzy sort of a movie about flowers and kittens and that sort of thing, I'm sure. In reality, of course, this is a film about Jeffrey Dahmer. It's one that I'm unfamiliar with. Of course, I know Dahmer's crimes fairly well. I've studied his murders fairly extensively in the past. But while I do know the true story of Dahmer, I don't know this particular film. It mentions on the cover that it's based on the acclaimed graphic novel, which I'm also unfamiliar with, so I really don't know to what extent this is a work of fiction inspired by the true story, or to what extent this is true to the actual events. Let's read the description on the back and see if we can gain any insight that way. Said description tells us, Jeffrey Dahmer, portrayed by Disney Channel's Ross Lynch, of all things. I don't know who that is because I didn't watch the Disney Channel, but anyway, Jeffrey Dahmer is an awkward teenager struggling to make it through high school with a family life in ruins. His bizarre behavior at school attracts unexpected friends, a group of band nerds who form the Dahmer Fan Club, headed by Durf Backdurf. But as they near graduation, Jeff's depravity continues to take hold, and he spirals further out of control. Based on Backdurf's critically acclaimed 2012 graphic novel, and written for the screen and directed by Mark Myers, not to be confused with Mike Myers, of course, My Friend Dahmer is the haunting, sad, funny, true story of Jeffrey Dahmer in high school. So that's, interesting. I don't know much about Dahmer's youth, except for the things that are so briefly mentioned whenever you read about his crimes. But apparently this gives us a supposedly true, at least, peek behind the curtain at the formation of that sort of a monstrous character. If it is in fact true to actual events, I imagine it's a fascinating story, because the kind of psychology that it takes to create a Jeffrey Dahmer type character, while disturbing and troubling and all of those things, frequently makes for interesting reading and frequently makes for interesting viewing. So this should be, hopefully, a remarkable film. And that's followed by our second film, which is a film entitled Monstrous. This one stars Christina Ricci, although it's one of hers that somehow I have not yet seen, which is fairly surprising. I don't really know much about it. I seem to recall having heard of it, but I have not heard a whole lot of details, and I've not seen the film, so as is our way, let's read the description. It's a fairly short one in this case, which says, "A terrifying new horror awaits Laura and her 7-year-old son Cody when they flee her abusive ex-husband and try to settle into a new life in an idyllic and remote lakeside farmhouse." Does that ever work out well in a horror movie? I mean, don't get me wrong, that's where I want to go too, partially because it never works out in the horror movie, but I'm weird. Carrying on, it says, "Still traumatized, their physical and mental well-being are pushed to the limit as their fragile existence is threatened." But it does not particularly say what the threat is. So it leaves us with a lot more questions than answers, but I think that could be a good thing. There are a lot of films, and the same goes for books and video games and graphic novels and everything else, but in this case we're talking movies, and there are a lot of films that I think are best approached cold, knowing as little as possible about what the monster or the threat or the horror is actually going to be. And I think that's especially true in the horror genre because fear of the unknown is frequently much more powerful and visceral than any particular fear of any known object or force or entity. So the fact that this is promising a horror movie, and it does look like an interesting and good horror movie, but all it really tells us is they're moving to this farmhouse, so assuming the film maybe takes its time to reveal what the threat is, I think that's good marketing because watching the film will just be that much more frightening as the audience tries to figure out what's really happening. I don't know whether that's really the case. For all I know, the monster could pop up in the first frame of the movie and everything I said, while true in general, could be absolute nonsense with regard to this film. But hopefully we're in for a good, creepy kind of a story, one way or the other. Christina Ricci, I'm a big fan, so I'm looking forward to it, if for no other reason than just because she's in it, so can't be all bad. And in fact, it doesn't sound bad at all. Looking forward to trying this one as well. That's a film called Monstrous. And third, we have a film entitled Till Death. This one stars Megan Fox and is another one that I have some recollection of having heard of, but really know nothing about because I haven't seen the film. The description on this one says, "Emma is stuck in a stale marriage to Mark and is surprised when he whisks her away to their secluded lake house for a romantic evening on their 10th anniversary. But everything changes the next morning when she finds herself handcuffed to Mark's dead body. Trapped and isolated in the dead of winter, Emma learns this is only the beginning of Mark's twisted plan, and to survive, she must fight the hired killers coming to finish her off." Blimey. That indeed sounds like the romantic getaway from hell. I can imagine that would make for quite a good horror or thriller story, even as I'm sitting here trying to fathom what this Mark character's motivation possibly could be. But presumably that's revealed as the story goes on, and that's part of the mystery. This one also sounds quite intriguing, and it seems like we're getting very different kinds of movies with all three of these so far, and I like that variety. So far, so good. And that brings us to the last one, the last Blu-ray out of this April pack, which will be the HorrorPack exclusive. As y'all know, if you've been either subscribed to HorrorPack or watching my videos about them, every month one of the Blu-rays is a HorrorPack exclusive. This one is a film entitled Cruel Summer. This is exclusive number 94, according to the number on the spine. And I seem to recall having heard of this one, but I have not seen it, so I don't know a whole lot about it. And it's frequently the case that I don't know much about these HorrorPack exclusives because, well, they are exclusives. That doesn't mean this is the only way to watch the movie. Sometimes they're streaming on one of the streaming services. Sometimes there's been a previous DVD or Blu-ray release and HorrorPack has brought it back out in exclusive format, those kinds of things. I'm not sure which is the case in this case, but we do have this exclusive edition. And in the interest of learning about the film, the description says, "From director Scott Tepperman comes a new tale of slasher terror. A group of college students plan one final pre-graduation party at a secluded lake house for the ultimate 80s murder mystery weekend, unaware that a masked psycho has just decided to join the celebration. Killer twists and turns surround every corner, and so does the crazed madman. Will anyone survive the slaughter, or is this going to become a truly cruel summer?" I see what they did there with the title. So, slasher movie. Sounds pretty much like a standard slasher movie. But I don't mean that as a criticism. I like the standard slasher movie, particularly if they find some way to bring in some original twists or turns, some original characters, some creative kills, those kinds of things. And this one certainly sounds promising. As I've said in a lot of these videos, I tend to like the HorrorPack exclusives. With a few exceptions, I think that the HorrorPack people have tastes similar to my own, so they pick good things as their exclusives, so looking forward to trying this cruel summer as well. And so that's 4 brand new Blu-rays for my collection. The nice thing about this is I have not seen any of these, which is why I like subscribing to HorrorPack, because they bring me some things that I have not seen before, and sometimes things that maybe I wouldn't even have happened across or been able to see if I were not subscribed to HorrorPack. So I am looking forward to diving in and watching all of these. Of course, because I haven't seen them yet, I can't review them yet, but as you know if you've been watching my videos, I will be doing so. In fact, my review video from last month's HorrorPack is coming soon. I'm just putting some finishing touches on my thoughts on those films, so stay tuned for that. Make sure you've subscribed and ring the bell so you don't miss it. And coming a few weeks hence will be my reviews for these 4 hopefully wonderful films. But that's really all I've got for you this wonderful rainy evening. I don't know if you can hear it on the microphone, but there's a wonderful sound of rain just outside the window over there, and it seems to me that what I ought to be doing is cracking open my window so I can hear it more directly while perhaps I watch one of these new films. So I'm going to go do that, which leaves me only to say, as I always do, take care and stay scared.